All right, so moving on to the next segment here. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the breaking news that just transpired in the National Football League with the Atlanta Falcons going in a different direction at the quarterback position. They have decided to bench Kirk Cousins and bring in their first round draft pick and Michael Penix Jr. to the lineup. The news broke literally an hour ago while I was putting together the final notes for the podcast tonight. The news broke out that the Atlanta Falcons are going in a different direction. And Raheem Morris, their head coach, stated in a statement they have decided to name Michael Penix Jr. their starting quarterback moving forward. The 8th overall pick in this spring's draft will get his first career start against the New York Giants this weekend. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons benching Kirk Cousins. I mean, this is huge, guys. Don't get me wrong. I personally said behind this microphone on this podcast a few weeks ago, I said it would be a shaky / difficult decision to bench Kirk Cousins at this point of the season and ride it out for the rest of the season with your rookie quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. Well, as time went on, as the stats got worse, as you've seen Kirk Cousins regress on the field and not look comfortable with playing at the quarterback position, now it's the right call to get Michael Penix Jr. on the field as soon as possible. Kirk Cousins has struggled, and he looked bad last night against the Las Vegas Raiders. One of the worst, a 2-12 Raiders team that didn't even have their best defensive player on the field and Max Crosby on the field last night. I mean, Kirk Cousins, this is horrible. He's 1-4 in his last 5 games. 1 passing touchdown and 9 interceptions in his last 5 games started. I don't care what anybody says. At this point, Michael Penix Jr. will give you better production. And Kirk Cousins, the way how he's playing, he's just got to ride the bench and go watch Michael Penix Jr. take over his starting role and his starting job. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for Michael Penix Jr. because we thought he was going to be sitting for years once Kirk Cousins just got this massive deal, that $180 million contract. But now Michael Penix gets the chance to take over this team, help the Atlanta Falcons possibly still win the NFC South because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have officially caught up to them. And he gets a great opportunity playing against a 2-12 New York Giants defense. That is one of the worst teams in the National Football League that really are playing just to tank at this particular point of the season. So Michael Penix, yeah, it might take some time to get on page with the receivers of Drake London and Darnell Mooney and Kyle Pitts at the tight end, but this move had to be done. And now it makes the Atlanta Falcons look like geniuses because we all question why they blew the 8th overall pick in the draft on Michael Penix Jr. They must have knew something that we didn't because Kirk Cousins has dramatically regressed. And now, luckily, they have him to turn to because if you didn't have him to turn to, you would have had Kirk Cousins out there for a little bit longer out there in Atlanta. So, he had no choice but to make this move because of how bad Kirk Cousins has played, especially letting the Bucs catch him in the NFC South race. I mean, we're talking about the Falcons that already have basically, they own the tiebreaker over the Bucs. They beat them and swept them in head-to-head competition this year, but the Bucs are still in the mix, and they're in first place of the NFC South right now. And even though the Atlanta Falcons had a big lead in this division, being 6-3, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers well behind in the race when they were dealing with injuries of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, that Chris Godwin is still out for the year. But they were going through so many injuries that the Falcons should have just put away this division when they had the chance. But no, they got a little too confident when they beat my Cowboys a few weeks ago, or a month ago, I should say. And they fell off a cliff since then. But if we're being realistic here, Kirk Cousins' time in Atlanta is over. How do you overcome this? You can't overcome this. Because now, they're turning to the young quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. All Michael Penix Jr., ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, have to put together 3 good games on tape. 3 good games on tape, and if they get into the playoffs, put together a solid playoff game. So you're asking basically for 3 to 4 good games on film that you can like from Michael Penix to take it into next year, and Kirk Cousins is gone. I just think at this point his stint in Atlanta is already over. Knowing, and this is the thing for Kirk Cousins, knowing that heading into the season, after you got your $180 million contract, you had a big chip on your shoulder. Not only were you coming back from a torn Achilles injury, but you watched the franchise unexpectedly draft Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th overall pick. So you had 2 big chips on your shoulder heading into this season. You played well in the first half of the season, but then you can't finish strong in the second half of the season. After starting off 6-3, what do? You let the Bucs get back into the race. You go 1-4 in your starts, 1 passing touchdown, 9 interceptions. That's a horrible winning-loss ratio and passing